people, developed relationships, built mutual trust, explained the why, and led strengths-oriented, transformationally, and transparently. In fact, at the next opportunity, I wrote down my leadership values in my own version of a leadership compass, see Chapter 12, and led by them proudly and successfully for another 10 years. Indeed, many of those musings have organically become the foci of this book. I had realised that day what business is. Business is not contracts, products, services, processes, spreadsheets, meetings, pitches, supply chains, or KPIs. The only thing that absolutely all professional organisations in the whole world have in common is people. As of 2018, every corporation on this planet still has people at its core, producing and selling its products or providing its services. During my nearly 20 years founding and running my own company, heading up a faculty at a university, lecturing undergrad and graduate students in team and communication, and delivering leadership workshops to tens of thousands of professionals across a host of industries and in many countries, my assertion has been confirmed again and again. Business is people. This book is not about contracts or whether or not one should sign them. This is not a list of rights or wrongs in business or how good a leader should or should not act. This book is about helping you establish what is important to you in your leadership experience. This book is about the value of values. It is not a collection of leadership recommendations, to-dos, or self-help advice. It is not a quick win, and it might leave you with more new questions than it provides answers. In the following pages, I hope to give you a kickstart on your lifelong journey of self-reflection toward becoming the inspirational leader you would like to and deserve to become. This book is the culmination of my 2 decades of experience in and musings on this fascinating subject of leadership. It is the critical mass of my professional work, and I hope you find at least one take-home. I would love that. Chapter 1. Do you want to drive the bus? Leaders often underestimate leadership. 200 souls. The year was 1945. My grandfather, together with millions like him, returned home from the war to a bleak welcome. His family's house in southeast London had been extensively damaged in the war. My father and aunt, then just children, and my grandmother were in dire need of warmth, nourishment, and a roof over their heads. The arrangement in those days was that everyone returning from the front had the right to take up the job that he or she had held before the war. But unfortunately, my grandfather's former employer no longer existed. It had been razed to the ground during the Blitz. Without the safety net of a social welfare system, such support was years off, my grandfather's position was precarious, and it was obvious his family's mere survival depended upon him finding employment, and fast. He applied, it is said, for hundreds of jobs. It was not that he was not employable. He had skills, experience, and no end of drive, but he was not alone. There were literally hundreds of thousands like him searching for and applying for the same positions. In such a saturated market, standing out from the crowd can prove difficult. Nevertheless, eventually he returned home one day with the news that he had been offered a job. My grandmother, whom I sadly only had the pleasure to know briefly while I was a small child, was apparently a woman of very few words. Family law says that she was only known to show her emotions on a couple of occasions in her life. The day my grandfather came home with the job offer was one of those times. My grandmother danced around the front room with the children, smiling across her face as she sang, "We're saved, everything is going to be all right, Daddy has a job." However, my grandfather did not have a job. He had indeed been offered a position to work as a London bus driver, but he had turned down the offer. He had not taken the job. Apparently that was the second time in her life that my grandmother showed her emotions. With sheer consternation, she harangued my grandfather for what she viewed as an awful decision. How could he turn down such a job offer, such a gift? How could he put his family's welfare on the line with such a decision, she pleaded. My grandfather, whom I never met as he sadly died before I was born, solemnly responded to his wife's vociferous appeals. "Darling, I turned down the job because I did not want the responsibility of 200 souls on my bus." After much consideration, I personally have come to the firm conclusion that I am hugely impressed by my grandfather's decision. He had the strength of conviction to make such a difficult decision despite acute awareness of the potential ramifications for others, his family. He put his values before potential material gain when he decided that he did not want to bear such a large responsibility.